Hi, humans, and welcome along. I'm Jessye, your producer and co host of Detoxing, a podcast that follows the life journey of John of the Millennium. For today's episode, we would like to take you on a very special journey across the oceans to the origin story of Millennium. We have her designer, builder, and captain here, fellow co host of Detoxing, John. Welcome along.
Hi, Jessye. Hi, humans. Welcome, everybody, along to this, warm welcome. We're in a very tropical island at the moment. And, it's a bit of paradise on the boat that I built. Anyway, we're going to go into a bit of a venture of how this all came about. So, where should we start, Jess?
Well, Captain John, you already said it. We're sailing around in this episode. Is that right?
Yeah, we're actually on the water, on the boat at present. And this has been a long, incredible journey over 32 years from its launching, put it that way.
All right, let's set sail. Can we begin with what's under the hull? How did you first decide you wanted to build a boat, John?
Wow, beautiful question. Let's go back many, many years now. This is back in the 80s, where I was into motorbikes pretty heavily, and we were down at this wine bar, and a friend of mine at the wine bar, he said, "Come and help me build the first section of my boat." And it was a ferro cement boat, a concrete boat my friend was building, 54 foot long. And I said, "I don't know anything about boats." And he says, "Yeah, come around and help pour the concrete for this boat." So away I went with shoveling concrete, mixing sand and cement together. And as I'm doing this, there's this incredible skeleton structure of a 54-foot yacht. And as the day progressed and the next day doing the concrete pour, I was thinking of hula girls, Tahiti, sandy beaches, nice calm winds, and being on the ocean. So that was my first inspiration. I could even visualize the palm trees there. So after that, I decided, wow, yeah, this could be the life for me. I didn't have much money at the time, so I decided to get a job, and I eventually got a job as a race car mechanic, which was pretty full on the V8 Fords it was, and building up the engines and the race cars for that. It was an absolutely fantastic job, right down my alley of improving, making it more competitive. And we managed to get the first win in 4 years. Long hours doing this. I did that for 1 year. And then I had enough money, I thought, to build a boat. But eventually it was only enough money to build the hull. And it was a 45-foot yacht that I started building from scratch. And the worst part, or the hardest part, was building the shed to build it in. Anyway, once we got underway, 5.5 years later, a beautiful 45-foot yacht came out of this shed and into the water. The trouble is I knew nothing about sailing. So for the first 3 months on the water, I had to have somebody out who knew how to sail and teach me how to sail. I eventually went off on my own on that boat and learned more about sailing. Then with my partner at the time, Jesse's mother, yeah, we did a we did a few trips up to New Caledonia, Vanuatu, and also a big trip over to New Zealand and Vanuatu again up there, New Caledonia. So, yes, that was a pretty amazing trip. But what I learnt on that trip, I need a bigger, better, faster boat. So, coming back to Australia, I had plans of selling the yacht and building another yacht. A lot of things happened on that journey. Yes, when I got back to Australia, a big horrific motorbike accident I had. That's for another story. But eventually I got underway building this yacht. And 4.5 years later, doing 99.9% of the work myself, I did get two other guys in to help me for fiberglassing, and that was over a period of 6 days. All the rest I managed to do myself, which included all the electrical, the welding, lots of stainless steel work, huge amount of fiberglassing to build this boat. We used, what was it, 14 200-litre drums of resin to build this boat. So this ended up a beautiful 60-foot long boat. And it was tears to my eyes when I launched it. I couldn't believe that I actually achieved something like that. And then I come to the learning of, well, if I can do it, I think anybody else can do it. Yeah, don't quit your day job just yet, but have a look into it, whether you've got the gifts and the abilities to build a boat, or if you've got the ability to earn lots of money and get somebody else to build a boat.
Can I ask you, John, with the first boat that you built, was that off plans? Did you buy some plans and then start getting the money together to build the hull and then finish it off?
Yes, I went around to many different designers and looked into their work and what was going on there. And I finally decided on a boat. It was a Bruce Roberts. So they were off the shelf plans, 45 foot. And I decided fiberglass because although I was very competent with steel work, fiberglass seemed to have the best resale value. But first, you've got to have the dream to go through this and pursue it. The first boat took 5.5 years to build. So I was working, building to get that all together. And then when I put it in the water, I thought, that's it, I'm retired. But 1 year later, I ran out of money. So yeah, back to work, back to get money coming in. And after sailing in New Zealand, I realized it was a bit off the performance, a bit off the pace. New Zealand was very advanced with their yacht design and building. So I started talking to many different designers and builders over there to get a concept of what I would like to build next. Finally, I came up with the concept of the 60-foot, and they were based on the single-handed round-the-world racing boats. So that was the
Oh.
original design concept that I decided to put together. And yeah, back in Australia there, went to more designers and started talking to more people there how to design a boat, what's the way to go about it. And finally, I found one yacht designer, a man called Scott Judson, that could talk my language. And I put forward all my concepts and everything. And he looked over the concepts of my plans and everything, and it was rather interesting. He said, "Oh, that's interesting. And that's a good idea." Oh, no, John, no, that won't work. That won't work. And he put forward his concepts, and we managed to get together this beautiful offshore 60-foot cruising boat. It was more designed on the lines of cruising, but we ended up doing a lot of racing with it and some big
Mm.
races as well. Anyway, yeah, getting that all together was a long journey of building, and a lot of things happen on the way of the construction and building of this. I put a lot of my money from the first boat into the stock market. And in
Yeah, yeah.
1987, the stock market crashed.
So you've had the boat launched for, oh gosh, it must be coming up to its 33rd birthday. Would that be about right?
Yeah, launched it in December of 1992. So that's when it
Yeah.
launched and came together then.
And what was the first journey, first nautical mile?
Well, the first journey was just to sort the boat out. That was sailing from Foster Tuncurry, Australia, down to Nelson's Bay, which wasn't far south of there. And it was really just complete the boat, get the boat back together, get it all sorted out after it was in the water, and get it in working, sailing, full condition. So it wasn't much of a sail just down there. It was just a bit to work like sea trials, more find out what we had to alter, fix, and modify. And then the next big trip was up to the Whitsundays, which is sort of like the Mecca in Australia of the boating place in Australia. So, yeah.
I may have heard that.
And on the journey up there's quite a few people, you're going up for Hamilton Island Race Week, are you? And I've heard of it, but I didn't know anything about it. And more people kind of started saying that and ended up getting a sponsorship off Club Med to do the Hamilton Island Race Week. So that was a pretty intriguing, getting the boat in, or all of a sudden thrown into race trim and doing the Hamilton Island Race Week. So, yeah, the first part of it we did very well, and then other sections we didn't do too. Yeah, it wasn't anything great at all. So moving on from that, it was a big step into the racing scene. And as I said, I really didn't design this boat for racing, but it ended up becoming a big part of my life.
What made you get into the racing further? I know you said you didn't initially build the boat with that thought in mind.
Well, as I said, we really didn't get into the racing mode, but being a pretty super yacht, and these ones are called pocket maxis. So on the trip up there, everyone thought, wow, what a racing boat, what a racing boat. Yes, because it was ahead of its design in the time. It had water ballast in it and lots of other features. So, yeah, it was a bit more of a pressure from other people. One of my original concepts was to do a single-handed round-the-world race with this boat. But I realized at the time when I put it in the water, when I actually built it, that I wasn't physically up to speed with that. I wasn't emotionally prepared to do a round the world race. And also financially, I wasn't financially able to do it, which was a good thing in the time. So I got into racing bit by bit by bit, ended up doing ended up doing two-handed racing out of Sydney up the coast with two-handed racing overnight. And they were interesting races, and you start pushing yourself more to the limits there.
Mm.
Then we went into some bigger racing, Sydney to Hobart yacht race. And another big race was from Australia, Brisbane, to Japan. That was a big, long race. That was a fully crewed race. We had 7 people on board for that. And we did very well at the beginning of the race. We're doing 200-mile days, 250-mile days. And these are nautical miles. So I remember we put together over 4 consecutive days, we did 1,000 nautical miles, which is about 200 kilometres. So that was really
Ooh,
pushing the
wow.
boat and pushing the boat hard.
How long would that take in daylight hours or?
24-hour runs, so over 4 consecutive days, 24-hour runs. One day we did 265 nautical miles,
Wow.
which is, roughly speaking, nearly 600 kilometres.
Could you do it, set it on autopilot? Does someone have to be on night watch, or how does that work?
Well, it was a fully crewed race, no autopilots. We hand steered all the way there, 7 crew on board, and it was a very challenging race crew-wise. Some of my crew had experience with Sydney to Hobart race, other different races. So putting all this crew together for this race, it was very interesting. And what I found the most difficult part was in the quiet times when we came to the doldrums, the equators, the
Oh,
equator where we're only doing, our worst day was 32 miles, 60 kilometre. That was our worst day sailing. So there was very little wind to play with, and a lot of emotions and feelings come up with a crew. So that was challenging keeping it all together in the light times when it's full on and you're surfing down waves and really pushing the boat. And it can be very tense in those situations, but it doesn't give the body time to relax. And when you're in the quiet times, a lot of feelings and emotions come up to the surface. It's like a meditation on water. So
mm,
that's the challenging part for myself, for other crew that were on the boat, and dealing with these feelings and emotions that come up with other people. Anyway, we got through that and we managed to come third in the race when we finally got into Japan, which was about a 23-day race. It was a big
wow.
race. And what happens out on the ocean, once you've been out there, your concept and your reality shifts, being on the water, being on the ocean
Mm.
that long. And we had adults on board, and all of a sudden seeing little children again at the end of the race. And you go, wow, look at those little people, aren't they amazing? And your view of the world becomes a little bit different after being on the water that long. And it's interesting. What I do now is appreciate long journeys on the water where you get away from the distractions of land, all the concepts on land, and
Mm.
all the things that pull you off your direction, off your path, that don't really mean a lot in your life. And when you get back to the water again, it's like a reset. Ah, this is where I feel good. This is where I like being. And yeah, especially getting away from all that electronic noise, that electronic distractions. Yeah, it's a beautiful sensation being on the water. So that's a little bit
So
of the concept of what happened along my journey.
you've gone from racing world, very high pressure, hectic times, and then the lull to be with your thoughts and think and pause for a moment. When did the cruising style of sailing come into it?
Well, that came along quite early with the cruising in there, but doing more big cruises and venturing further, I ended up leaving my whole world behind in Australia and sailed up to Thailand.
Mm.
And that was an interesting journey up to there. It took about, wow, a month to get up there, up to Thailand. And a lot of that was just passage making continually overnight.
Mm.
And you're doing 10-day passages, things like that. So that was a big part of the cruising side of it. Then when got to Thailand, and that's a very an amazing place, Thailand, started doing some racing up there, the King's Cup racing. They were just day races, a lot of fun, a lot of full on stuff. Yeah, that was exciting things, the King's Cup racing. And the concept then came about of sailing around the world. I
Mm.
met a beautiful Thai girl, fell in love, and we decided to do a round the world cruise. So leaving Thailand to do that, and we had 5 crew all in all when we left Thailand, and that was to the Maldives, basically, this crew. and we stopped in at Andaman Islands along the way, and then to the Maldives, and then the crew jumped off there and further cruising down to the Chagos Archipelago, and this is in the middle of the Indian Ocean. So that was the next venture, just two of us, and that was the start of an 8-year journey around the world. So the
Wow.
concept of going around the world really didn't hit me till I hit Thailand, that everything came together. Yeah, the right place, the right people, that pushed me off on that journey. And a very good friend of mine always, this is quite some time ago, he set out a plan for going around the world. And I pretty much stuck to that plan. Yeah, had to go around the world. And 2 months in the Chagos Archipelago, and just the two of us, that was the highlight of the whole trip. Other cruising yachts were in there. You cannot access this place by plane, by boat. You've got to sail into there. And being in the middle of the Indian Ocean, it stops a lot of people coming there who aren't prepared for this. So 2 months there, a lot of camaraderie amongst the other yachties, helping each
Yeah.
other. You find there was an expert on all different assets, all different parts. There'd be some expert in, even computer programming. There was people who knew how to do that. Other ones, like myself, knew how to do refrigeration, and I was helping other people fix their refrigeration. So it covered a broad range of people and some amazing people that we met there, and still in touch with people. And wow, that was back how many years ago? 18, 17 years ago.
It sounds like you've been a part of this little community that's been built up over years, no matter what facet of sailing, racing, cruising, longer passage journeys, that you just meet people along the way and you're able to help each other out in life in general. What made you, I guess, leave that area of the archipelago?
Well, we only had a permit for 2 months to stay there,
Um,
and I didn't have satellite connection or anything. Other people started staying there longer and getting satellite connection so they could extend their stay there. The British military came in there a couple of times. They come in once a month and they check who is there. Have you got a permit for the place? It's absolute paradise. Incredible fishing, a lot of sharks there, a lot of big sharks. You had to be careful. And yeah, lots of coconuts. So living on fish and coconuts for a while, but the
yeah,
only food you had and diesel and outboard fuel you had to bring in yourself. There was no shops, no people living there. So this is a little bit like Gilligan's Island or
yeah.
uh, yeah, that type of thing that most yachties would dream of. A lot of armchair yachties never get to experience that type of thing. And it's
I
a
think
fair sail to get to there.
they get tied in with probably similar to what you started with the concept of sailing. You had this vision in mind, the hula girls, the coconuts and everything, and then the lifestyle kind of takes over. They get bought into, oh, I've got this yacht and it's this luxury, cruising thing, and we only take it out of the marina on the weekends or whatnot. But you've built a lifestyle from it. You've built a career out of it, a way to make money.
Well, yeah, it wasn't much money made when there was just two of us sailing along there. And yeah, so we had to be very tight with the money, but there was nothing to spend money on in a lot of these
Yeah.
places.
Yeah.
And well, when we decided to keep going, basically to South Africa from there, and
Mm.
the Somali pirates were very heavy off Somalia and around the Seychelles, that particular area. So there was a lot of nervousness amongst the yachties continuing their round the world cruises or their ventures. So a lot of us mainly decided to go south to a place called Rodriguez and
Mm.
very rarely visited Rodriguez. It's a beautiful island down more southern in the uh, in the Indian Ocean there. So beautiful, beautiful people there that didn't experience a lot of other tourists or people like that coming in. Very few people go to Rodriguez. Anyway, we ended up doing a race around there. One of the yachties put together with the help of the locals a race around the Rodriguez Island. So that was a
Ah,
beautiful
I think
little
I read about this in the
adventure.
newspaper.
Yeah, there was news clippings, the media was in it, on it, and sponsorship came in, and we ended up winning the round the Rodriguez race. And it was a very, very challenging race. We had a lot of locals on board that didn't know a lot about sailing, but still beautiful people all in all. And yeah, we ended up winning those races. We were the overall winner, and we got line honours 2 times, and that was against bigger yachts as well. It was quite interesting. Some of the oceans were a bit large there, and we were reduced sail and lots of wind. Anyway, interesting little venture. So from Rodriguez, we stayed there a couple of weeks. We pushed on to Reunion and the other Mauritius. Yeah, crossed down to Mauritius. So there were other interesting tropical islands in the South Pacific, not the South Pacific, in the southern Indian Ocean. Reunion's a French island there. So we have to clear in customs and immigration every time we go to these islands. So that's part of the cruising venture. Then to Madagascar. So we stayed down low to miss these Somali pirates. And then it was a good trip over to Madagascar. Cleared in customs and immigration into Madagascar. And wow, crayfish were just plentiful there. Lots
Mm.
of good food. It's a very poor country. And sailing north there, lots of inlets, islands, and some of the places were the old pirate bases. And it was interesting. Some of the locals there, we ended up buying some chickens, and they chopped them and cooked them for us. And they were very old chickens, and we were pretty green, didn't know what to do. And yeah, but anyway, some of the ventures there, they go get crayfish for us and things like that. So good food, good eating, a lot of good seafood in Madagascar.
Can I just ask, John? I was going to sort of draw a reference to traveling around the world. And I know that you've done a lot of touring through Europe on a motorbike. Can you maybe enlighten us? What's what's your main difference in sailing around the world and touring on a bike, or be it on land transport?
Well, there's a huge difference. When I went through Europe on my motorbike, I had to set tents up every night, and then you take the odd night, oh, weather looks good, I won't set a tent up. And then middle of the night, you're putting up a tent, pouring down rain. At least with a boat, it's like a tortoise. You take your shell with you. You take your home with
That's
you.
good.
So you've got all these beautiful amenities of home. You've got your fridge, freezers, everything that you would like on a boat, you can take with you if you have the room. So you're bringing your house with you, your home with you. The only thing you've got to find a good place to park your yacht. And some people even think in
Or
the
more
middle of
your
the night,
yacht.
you just stop, put the anchor down. Well, your anchor won't touch the bottom in the middle of the ocean there. And you just keep sailing day in, day out. Some of these passages have been 21 days at sea, 23 days. So some of them are long passages, not little island hops where it's just day sailing. So you've got to be prepared for that. The boat's got to be prepared for that. And you've got to also be prepared for weather, being hit with
Mm.
storms, cyclones, and things like that. You pick the best time of the year to go sailing, but comparing it to land-based activities, you cannot compare. It's something completely different. It's a complete different world up there. And what the magazines and the pictures say and the movies, it really doesn't represent what it's actually like out there.
No.
It's a bit like sex. You've got to do it to understand what it's all about. And ocean sailing, yes, you've got to be in there to get the concept of it is like.
All right, John, we're approaching the marina, but we're not going to head back into it. We might drop the keel here. I think there's at least 10 meters to hook on onto the bottom. Can you summarize for us maybe in three separate things if someone's thinking about, I don't know, doing a charter from Phuket to Langkawi, or I know that you've just sailed out of there, or starting off on a round the world adventure of their own? Give us a little insight. Three top tips that you can reset your mind to think about doing.
I mean, experience, that's probably one of the best things. Talk to a lot of people if somebody's looking at doing this venture or even buying a boat.
Mm.
Yes, there's a lot of cheap boats out there on the market, but you've got to get a good, competent, seaworthy boat to do a venture like that. Something that's reliable with good sails, good equipment on board. So it's best to talk to other people that have done this type of stuff. And there's lots of forums that you can hook into and learn a little bit about it. So it's could be a shift from some people who are the armchair sailor or just done the day racing or done a little bit of cruising that have a
Mhm.
zen or a zest to go further with that. So a good competent boat, and the size of the boat usually depends on your pocket, how much money you've got. So yeah, that'd be a whole other section, what you can afford. And
Yeah.
it's more so what you're capable of handling. Usually 40 to 45 foot would be the average yacht for sailing offshore, going on ventures. And if you go smaller, yes, can do it. It's a little bit more uncomfortable with it, and it people have done around the world in a lot smaller boats. So yeah, it can be done. And
Mm.
of course, bigger boats. When you get bigger boats, you're starting to look into more crew that are needed. So if you and your wife just want to do it, when you get up to the bigger boats, say we're going 50, 60 foot, you need the boat very much set up for short-handed sailing, even single-handed sailing. So you can operate that boat easily with one person and two good autopilots. So it's always good to have a good autopilot because basically that's your extra man. He doesn't complain. You just feed him a bucket of amps and a bucket of volts, and the autopilot sometimes whinges and cries and works a bit hard under heavy seas, but you need a very good autopilot. So that's a big must.
Tell us, John, where in the world are you at the minute?
I'm at this beautiful place called Koh Rock Nok, and it's southern Thailand, and it's in the Andaman Sea, and it's absolutely beautiful. There was one of the yacht that came in here yesterday. There were a lot of fishing boats sheltering in here from big seas and big winds a couple of days ago, but at present it is just so quiet and so peaceful here. I'm on a mooring in about 10 meters of water, and it's just a little bit of paradise here. Yeah. It's you've got coconut trees, palm trees, sandy beaches, clear waters, which is so beautiful having clear waters. So there we are
You're painting the
with that.
picture for us very well. I love it.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll have to make this a bit of a series and go on with the next venture from, arriving in Madagascar. So that'll be another part for another series.
Let's do a little African series when we next catch up.
Yeah, to give people a little bit of an idea, it took 9 months or 10 months from Thailand to South Africa. So that was going across the Indian Ocean there. So that might give a little bit of an idea of the concept and the adventures that we got into. But we'll leave that for the next episode, I think, Jess.
Let's circumnavigate back round. We'll get you back on for another episode for sure. You are the co-host of Mind Detoxing. And thank you for joining us on this nautical journey, sailing around the world with John of the Millennium.
And thank you to all the viewers. I hope this inspires or enlightens a few to move out of their comfort zone. I'll say bye for now and see you on the next part of the cruise.
Thank you for joining us. You have been listening and watching Mind Detoxing with John of the Millennium, produced and co-hosted by Jessye Clayton of You Are the Compass.